So I guess you heard that there's this pilot shortage and then now people are furloughing. So what the heck is going on? My name is Katie. I'm a professional pilot, and while I work on the corporate side of things, I like to give updates on airline pilot hiring on my channel because that's what most people are interested in, and this channel is all about helping the aviation community and sharing the joys of flying. So I've got some August of 2024 updates for you guys. I have a long list of airlines that I'm going to go through and say whether or not they're hiring and just more information that I have on those airlines. Also, like I said, I work in corporate aviation, so if you have more up-to-date info, go ahead and put it in the comment section. Last time I made one of these videos in July, I had to make another update 2 days later just because so much had changed in the industry in that short period of time. So if you are someone who has an inside peek at maybe the hiring process of a certain airline and this is not up to date, maybe a company's website is not up to date, put it in the comments because people can just narrow their search and not waste time applying for companies that are not hiring right now. We all know how horrible the hiring process is for pilots. It's a long process. You have to study a lot and it can be stressful. So let's help each other out and share the information to streamline that process for people. So first up, let's talk about Spirit. They had said previously that they were going to be furloughing pilots, and they did send out those notices. Right now, they are going to downgrade 100 pilots and furlough 240 pilots. So not great news there for Spirit Airlines. But on to Delta, they said that they were going to hire about 1,000 pilots for this year. Previously, they had said 2,000, and now they're kind of adjusting those numbers as they get a better idea of what their needs are. They've hired about 1,100 pilots so far this year. I think the exact number is 1,018. So they kind of are on track to hit their goal, and they may be kind of getting staffed up here. Delta has said that they will pause onboarding for November and December of 2024. Now, some people have said that's pretty normal in the training center. Other people have said that's not. So I think this is really just more of a reflection of the fact that a lot of these major airlines are getting caught up and they don't feel like they need to hire quite as aggressively as they were. Just some data from Aerocrew News on Delta's hiring this year. They hired 21% of their pilots from the military, 24% from the Delta Connection carriers, 21% were from low-cost carriers or other major airlines, and 34% were from cargo, charter, fractional, and other. That's really interesting because it used to kind of be that Delta really only wanted people with 121 experience and or military experience. However, they hired a lot of people this year and the year before, so they did take a lot of people from like NetJets and things like that. So interesting kind of to see that trend changing a little bit for Delta. These are in no particular order, but next up is PSA. So even before I was able to put this video out, I had another update on PSA that I wanted to throw in here and share with you guys. PSA is offering voluntary leaves to pilots. However, they're still hiring. So let me kind of explain. This is something from someone I talked to that works there, and this is just what they told me. So this is not like an official press release or anything like that. Obviously, I'm not affiliated with the company, but they're saying that this is a tactic to kind of cut down on the budget. So those pilots who are higher paid per hour are being offered voluntary leaves. Nobody's being furloughed or anything like that, but they're still hiring, and they're hiring reduced classes and mostly from their cadet program pool. So I have never heard of this before. It's a little funky, but that's apparently what's going on at PSA. So another thing that we talked about in the last video that I'd like to point out is these cadet programs are where a lot of these places are hiring from. So if you're in that phase where you're considering whether it's worth it or not to join one of those, it sounds like it might be, because a lot of these airlines are not hiring on the regional side anyone except from their cadet pilot pool. American has stopped hiring. American has stopped hiring because of Boeing delay issues for the most part, and that has had a trickle-down effect to those regionals that feed American Airlines. So this whole Boeing thing, if you have not heard, there were some production issues with Boeing based off quality control, some of those things that we saw in the news earlier this past year, and the FAA has really stepped in, and Boeing has really adjusted their process and slowed things down to make sure that they're only delivering completely safe aircraft as they should. So what that means is a lot of companies that ordered a Boeing aircraft are not going to get that delivery at the time they had expected it. It's obviously very expensive to pay pilots, and we're not going to have them paid and just sitting there for no reason. So because of that, American Airlines and a few others have just stopped hiring until they can actually get delivery of those aircraft, and then their pilots can fill those seats. JetBlue is next on our list, and they have just said that they're deferring all pilot new hire classes for the rest of the year. They have cited the Pratt & Whitney engine issues, which is kind of similar to what's going on with Boeing. There was some quality control issues and production has been delayed for Pratt & Whitney engines, which are on all these planes, and so on and so forth. So JetBlue's not hiring, and they're not going to be doing classes for the rest of the year because they have enough pilots right now for what they need. United Airlines is the next one on my list, and they had kind of paused hiring. Now, there was a lot of back and forth. Originally, they put out to the news, or some reporters falsely reported that they were pausing hiring. Then United clarified and just said, we're just pausing classes for 2 months just to kind of help our training department get a little more caught up, and then we're moving on. And that's actually what they did. So June and July, they didn't have training, and then for new hires, and then they moved on and they're still hiring. So United is currently hiring. Southwest is not hiring. They operate only 737s, which is a Boeing aircraft. So they have not been hiring for a few months now, and they have said we're not hiring for the rest of the year. I don't know if you've seen in the news, but Southwest has just said that they're changing the way they do seating. So if you're not aware, when you fly Southwest, there's no assigned seating. You just show up to the gate and fill in the aircraft. And this was kind of a new thing that they did at the time, and they've been doing it for years, and they're going to stop doing that. They're going to go to assigned seating, which is interesting. So Southwest is doing some changing internally to the way that they run things, and they have said that they're not hiring pilots for the rest of the year. We already talked about American Airlines, but they are not hiring for the rest of 2024. Now, a lot of these airlines have just said straight up for the rest of 2024. That could be something to do with the election as well. That's total speculation on my part, but it's just kind of interesting that they've said no more for the year. That also may be, fiscal things where their budget and so forth makes sense, and they've already got the numbers ready for the rest of the year. A couple of our cargo airlines, UPS is hiring, so they seem to be somewhat unaffected by everything that's going on, and they are hiring, so keep ordering your stuff online and they will keep delivering it. FedEx, on the other hand, is a different situation. They have a lot going on. There's a lot between the pilots and the company. There's been a lot of negotiation, and they're saying that they're overstaffed by 500 pilots. They also have stated that they are not hiring for the foreseeable future. So I think that there's a lot going on at FedEx, and they're just kind of adjusting, getting things under control, and then we'll get an update at some point in the future. Allegiant Air is next, and they say that they're accepting applications. This is another one where it's hard to kind of get an update, and the information that's on a website for them sometimes is not completely updated. So the best information I have is that Allegiant is accepting applications. Avelo is hiring both first officers and captains. That is what their website reflects and what their most recent press statement says, but we don't have anything else since then. So again, if you work there and you know what's going on more accurately, put that in the comments so people don't waste their time if you're not currently hiring. The most recent report on Breeze Airways says that they are hiring direct entry captains for the Airbus fleet. Now, this is something else to talk about. So a lot of these companies only need airline captains. They only need someone who has 1,000 hours of 121 time and can legally operate as a 121 airline captain. So a lot of these regional airlines are only hiring direct entry captains or qualified first officers, which means they have like 750 hours of qualifying time that can count toward those 121 captain mins. Frontier Airways, they said that they are offering voluntary separation and canceling classes for July and August. So we'll see what happens with Frontier. They seem like they are kind of feeling a little bit of this economic situation, and they are actually offering voluntary separation. Now, some people who work at Frontier have told me that this is typical for this time of year. I don't fully understand how that would be if there's just a slowdown for July and August. Usually the summer is the busiest time to fly. So maybe what they're saying is we need those pilots that work in the training department out on the line. So they can't train pilots because it is our busiest time of the year. So everybody's like all hands on deck flying and not training. I don't know if you work at Frontier, let me know what's going on there. Sun Country states that they are hiring first officers. Air Wisconsin is only hiring captain qualified first officers. That's actually the title of the position. So again, this is something that is basically saying we need 121 captains. So the actual title on their website is Captain Qualified New Hires. And it says on their website they're hiring first officers, but there's a couple notes, and if you go down and dig, it actually kind of shows that this is all that they're hiring. And again, these are the pilots that can really quickly become a 121 captain. Commute Air states that they are hiring first officers and captains. Endeavor Air states that they're hiring first officers and direct entry captains, so kind of similar to what we were just talking about. Envoy says they're accepting applications. And GoJet is hiring experienced only first officers and captains. They actually titled it Near entry captain. So that's basically the same thing that some of these other companies are doing, where they're like, we need an airline captain, so we're going to set specific qualifications for this position, and you have to have qualifying time that could count towards 121 captain seat. Horizon Air is the exact same way. They're only hiring qualified first officers, and they're very specific on what that means. I actually talked to someone at that company and figured out exactly what the time requirements are for that. And it's basically like you need to be a previous 121 pilot with that time. You need to be a certain jets that you've been PIC of, that time can count for, or 135 captain time in a multi-engine aircraft with a certain number of seats, that can count for that. So if that's you and you're interested in going into a direct entry captain position or one of these qualified first officer positions, look on those websites, and the applications are pretty easy to find. Mesa, unfortunately, is furloughing pilots. They said about 50 of their pilots they'll be furloughing. Piedmont Airlines is not hiring, and they have announced they will pause new hire classes. They also canceled CJOs, which is conditional job offers, and rescinded any kind of bonuses or compensation that went along with that. They also said that this was due to the American Airlines hiring pause. So it's all kind of a funnel, and once one thing stops, there's a trickle-down effect, unfortunately. Republic and Silver say that they are hiring, and SkyWest is hiring. Now, SkyWest has a contract right now, so be very aware of what that contract says and if you're willing to sign that. But if you are, or if you're willing to work around that, there are some specifics to that. Be very aware of that, but they are actually hiring at SkyWest. Overall, basically, this pilot shortage is something that we have really compensated for. We've trained a record number of pilots in the past couple of years. So now we kind of have a lot of low-time pilots, and we still need airline captains. So that's where the shortage really is. That's where people are still hiring and looking for those positions to be filled. And it seems like even the majors have kind of caught up with their first officer hiring, and some of them have even stopped. If you are a low-time pilot and you just got into this industry, just keep building hours. This is not, the end of the world. The aviation industry is extremely cyclical, and what that means for you, if you haven't heard, is you need to be very financially conservative. So this is not an industry that you're going to just get a job and always have it. Most pilots will get laid off at one point in their career, and so you need to act accordingly financially and have reserves for your household, or this can be, a pretty serious event for you. Those of you that comment and say, oh my gosh, my life is over, why did I even get into this career field? I hope that someone told you this in the beginning, and if not, I'm telling you now. This industry is very cyclical. It's feast or famine. Things can change overnight. It's very economic dependent. And you need to really get into this industry for a love of flying and a passion for that, not just for money, because this career can really have its highs and its lows, unfortunately. This is why I try to promote a lot of information about how to do your flight training without any debt. I actually did my flight training, all of it for under $35,000. Through the light sport CFI route. I've put together a PDF guide on this because people had so many questions about how this works and how they can apply it, and I really want to help people. So that is linked in all of the profiles of all of my TikTok, Instagram, YouTubes. Check that out if that's helpful to you. I really just want people to be able to get into aviation and save money and not hate it because it's been such a stressful time personally and financially. Low-time pilots, keep building time. Keep building ratings, add to your experience level, get leadership experience, do community service, things like that really looks good to airline hiring. Become a check airman, do all of those additional duties and have something that you can put on your resume that really sets you apart. If you are interested in the military and you agree with that whole route in life, doing the Guard or Reserve is also a great idea. Everybody loves a military veteran, and that's something that also can give you some hiring points and maybe help you get hired in your dream job. Overall, the sky's not falling. This is just aviation. Welcome to the show. Unfortunately, this is normal and it will come back around. A lot of this has to do with Pratt & Whitney and Boeing issues. So all of that is getting fixed as we speak. So everybody just stay the course, keep flying safely. And I hope that you really enjoy the ride and just kind of take this as a bump in the road. And there might be a few more, unfortunately. Like I said, if you have more information or more up-to-date information, put it in the comment section. This really is a community effort, and you can be a part of helping the aviation community through this channel by sharing the info you have so people can really de-stress the hiring process overall.